Okay, hello everybody. This is Joseph P. Farrell on Thursday, November 14th, in the year beyond Thunderdome 2013. This is news and views from the Nefarium. An interesting development. As they say, it's the plot thickens, yeah? We'll get to that in just a second. A couple of announcements. I think about 2 months ago, I announced that Dr. DeHart and I are working on some other books. That is true, but they've been delayed a little bit because his schedule is so busy. I am doing a book right now, just kind of a little self-published thing that I originally intended to put as part of the ongoing Bankers series, but I decided what I'm going to do is take a little tangent and get this particular part of that series out quickly because I want people to see some things. So hopefully I'll have that done in the next couple of months. It all kind of depends on getting a little bit of research that I've been trying to put together. So I'll keep you posted on that, but we are planning to go ahead with our writing projects. I just wanted to let people know why there's the delay. All right, now let's go to some news, yeah? This is an interesting article because it's coming from Zero Hedge, our friends over there at Zero Hedge. It's really a very provocative and very uh, it's very thought-provoking because it's beginning to show some cracks, and I think you're going to see immediately once I start reading here what the cracks are, and then I'm going to try and put it into a wider context. The article is entitled "Europe Follows US in Demanding Germany Explain Its Exporting Ways." All right. And the article is submitted by the pseudonymous Tyler Durden at Zero Hedge. And he states this in the article, and listen very carefully, and then I want to comment. Quote, "As we discussed 2 weeks ago, it would appear Germany's lack of willingness to throw itself on the pyre of self-sacrifice and not adopt a global fairness doctrine, as engendered by the U.S. Treasuries and the IMF's bashing of the core European nations maintaining its export strength and daring to keep Europe intact and thus periphery damaging strong euro is gathering steam. None other than Europe itself is now probing Germany's trade surplus. In other words, what's really going on is it's France, Italy, Spain, and Greece, and probably to a certain extent Portugal, are examining this trade surplus. I don't think, and this is a crucial point we'll get back to, I don't think you're going to see Eastern Europe doing that so much in Germany's case. But in any case, Europe is using, quote, its enhanced powers over how Euro nations manage their economies, with the IMF urging German Chancellor Angela Merkel to curtail the trade surplus to an, quote, an appropriate rate, unquote, to help Euro partners cut deficits. Now, that should tell you right there what a scam the euro is. Who determines what's an appropriate rate? Well, obviously, the European bureaucrats and the international central bankers in Basel and the IMF and other places in Europe. So, in other words, it's all a scam, and now Germany is being called onto the carpet for, for being too productive and keeping the euro intact by that means. The article goes on to say this, quote, "It is a complete shock to the U.S. Treasury that the current layout of the Eurozone, the same Eurozone that the Fed has stepped in on numerous occasions to bail out, common currency and all, was simply to facilitate German exports to fellow European countries." So in other words, he's telling you that behind the scenes here, this is a conflict between the Federal Reserve and Germany, okay? Now let's continue. This is probably why, after years of saying nothing, in its semi-annual currency report released yesterday and employing unusually sharp language, the U.S. openly criticized Germany's economic policies and blamed the Eurozone powerhouse for dragging down its neighbors and the rest of the global economy. All right? Now, I want to comment here on what I think is going on, but I do want to mention one final quotation here in this respect. The article ends with this, quote, The opening of an in-depth review into the imbalances of Germany's economy comes after the U.S. Treasury blamed German surpluses for draining European and global growth. So, in other words, Germany's the problem with the global stagnation because they're producing too much and everybody else is getting kind of putting the kibosh on their production. The International Monetary Fund also reprimanded Germany for its surpluses, urging German Chancellor Angela Merkel to curtail the trade surplus to an appropriate rate to help Euro partners cut deficits, unquote. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think is going on here. It's pure speculation, but obviously you get a little bit of the picture here from the article. There's a huge fissure developing, and I've been predicting this, you'll recall, for at least a year and a half, if not 2 years, between Germany and the rest of the Western financial oligarchs and the rest of the financial powers in the West. Because it is true, Germany's economy is export driven, and it's the locomotive, as we all know, to the European economy. But we've also been noting that Germany has been quietly breaking away from the Western orbit with the calls to the gold repatriation. Then we had that very peculiar visit of Chancellor Merkel with virtually her entire federal cabinet to Communist China. She took her cabinet to Beijing for talks. There have been bilateral currency agreements and arrangements now, and also we must remember Germany's overtures to Russia, which has become Germany's principal energy exporter. And that's a very key, crucial thing here. So Germany has been making these overtures to the two leading powers in the BRICS nations, while at the same time calling into question the West's financial stability. Now, add on top of that what we saw recently with the NSA and its admission, or revelation really, that it's been spying on Chancellor Merkel's telephones, all right? Now, that's in itself not really that big of a deal, and I suspect everybody, including the Germans, know it because everybody spies on everybody. But it is a big deal in the context in which it occurs, and that's the financial context, all right? And Germany's complaint vis-a-vis the NSA spying, as I've been arguing all along, is probably really about the unlevel playing field economically that it creates between the United States and everybody else. And since Germany is a major manufacturing, exporting economy, unlike the United States, this is of deep concern to them, and rightly so, it should be. So now, in this article, we have the admission, really, that it's the Federal Reserve and the central bank policies of the Anglo-sphere, as the Daily Bell likes to call it, or as I like to call it, the Anglo-American financial elite, on the one hand, and the European sort of outlook led by Germany on the other. So I'm going to make a little prediction here. I'm going to crawl way out on my usual speculative limb. What you're seeing here is the absence, as I pointed out earlier, you're seeing the absence of Eastern Europe in this equation. With the exception of Greece, you don't really hear or haven't heard that much about what's going on in Eastern Europe. Now, the real story here, folks, is that Germany has dominated the economies of Eastern Europe ever since the reunification. I outlined this process in my book, The Nazi International. Because no sooner had the Iron Curtain fallen and Germany was reunified than German businessmen, and with the tacit assistance and winking and nodding from the German government itself, moved into Eastern Europe in a major way, buying up the telecommunications networks, various strategic businesses, mining, oil refining, and so on and so forth. The Germans moved into Eastern Europe in a major way, all right? And they did this in part also in Poland, where they moved back into those provinces of Poland that had been German prior to World War II, buying up old land and so on and so forth. So you're not going to hear, I don't think, much coming out of Eastern Europe. And the reason why that I think we now have to watch Germany and Eastern Europe vis-a-vis the rest of the Eurozone very carefully is I think you're going to see Germany and Russia now begin to very quietly, very slowly at first, starting to reassess the role of NATO in Eastern Europe. Remember that the United States has led the expansion of NATO into all of those former Soviet republics, much to the Russians' displeasure. As that was as that was happening, Germany moved into Eastern Europe in the economic sphere. I think you're going to see Russia play that energy card and begin to reassert an energy sort of hegemony over Eastern Europe. And this is going to come with very quiet German cooperation and collusion, if you will. Now, I think what all of this may herald, and again, I'm guessing, I'm speculating here, I think what it may herald is you're going to see more of that tightrope walking on the part of the Germans. But I don't think you're going to see very much willingness on their part to forego their export industry. They may take it down a little bit, but they will readjust it really to the BRICS nations. So in other words, Germany, this is going to force Germany even more to tilt toward the BRICS camp. They're not going to cut their exports. They're simply going to reshape them. They're going to reformat them, as it were. And that's going to hurt, in the long haul, that's going to hurt the rest of the Eurozone. So we may be looking at some infighting here. I think we are, as I predicted, in the Western financial structure. I think this is going to develop and it's going to grow. I don't think it's going to diminish, because remember, the other component is that NSA financial spying mess, which the other European nations, France in particular, are quite aware that this is an aspect of the NSA spying. So lots of stuff to watch here. Watch Germany, watch Eastern Europe, watch Germany and France, and watch Germany slowly begin to retailor its export economy. That's going to be some very big news. Once that really is underway and once it's completed, watch Germany move out of the Anglo-sphere orbit. And that means, like it or not, folks, a much more assertive Germany on the international plane, just as it has always meant. So it's once again the Titanic economy in the center of Europe that seems to be in the news, and nobody else likes that economy in the center of Europe because it outproduces everybody else. So anyway, that's it for this week's news and views, folks. An early one today. I may do another one later on today, but I was up early and wanted to get this recorded because I thought it was very interesting and very significant. That's it, folks. See you on the flip side, and God bless.